I'm making you a co-host. So I'm gonna get out of it, the login thing, and let you log in. You can do it from your phone even, I think, if that's easier.
I'm trying to figure out.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council's second candidate forum. Tonight, we have two candidates who are vying for the state office for the second Suffolk State Representative. We have first candidate is the current state rep for the 6th Suffolk. Where is it? Kenneth Russell Holmes. The second is the candidate Haris Hardaway. Did I pronounce that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. The way it's going to work is that this is going to count as the opening statement, and then each candidate is going to have up to 2 minutes each to do an opening statement about what they hope to accomplish in the office. And then we're going to move on to questions. The first opening questions are going to be done by our Vice Chair, Matthew Skelly. And then we're going to move on to questions from the chat room. We have a chat room moderator who's labeled on the screen here as a GMNC chat room moderator. The audience, I ask that you please go and put all of your questions inside of the chat room. Thank you. So to begin, could I please ask State Rep Russell Holmes, please? Thank you. For opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Fatima, and all of the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council for participating tonight, and all of those who are visiting online. I am very thankful that you decided to spend an hour with us tonight. I want you to just know that I have a firm belief that to whom much is given, much is expected. And this neighborhood has given me an awful lot over my years. And when I think about Mattapan and all the things it has done, I can tell you it's where I had my first job at Brigham's in Mattapan Square. It is a person growing up off of Cummings Highway near a Burger King. I grew up on Rockdale. And just know that all the things that I've needed from growing up, my dad moved up here from Boston from Mississippi. And when he moved up, my mom and my dad, we moved up from a very poor area. And when you think about just all the things that we needed growing up, from food stamps, Head Start, Pell Grants, you just name it all along the way. I can tell you, being born in 1969, and then coming right behind all of the war on poverty, I needed all of the rungs of the ladder. So literally, just as a family, I think about my wife, my mom, my dad, all of us, and how we looked at life, and how literally if there was a rung on the ladder of getting from poverty to self-sufficiency, we took it. And because of that, I feel very passionate about making sure I deliver for a community that's given so much to me. And so over the past 12 years, that has looked very different in some ways. It has been I've been a person that has made sure that I have followed through and making those commitments, or follow through with the commitments I made 12 years ago. And that is bringing you to the State House and your voice to the State House in every conversation, and then bringing the State House to you. And what do I mean by that? I have yet to have it so that my staff person has ever come to a meeting. If they do come to a meeting, that is because we have been just overstaffed. And great, and look forward to talking to you guys tonight. I've missed that first counter. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you. Candidate Haris Hardaway, please. I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Apologies. Good evening, everyone. It's glad to be here, and glad to see you all. I am a candidate for 6th Suffolk District State Representative, and I have lived in this district my entire life. I grew up on Morton Street and Hazleton. My first apartment was there, but I also have started my first job as a one of the blue shirts that started that Neponset River walkway that we all treasure now in Mattapan and Dorchester. And so that's where my heart is. It's about not only our homes, but our environment. And I'm here because we need some change. And that sounds cliche, but it's really about taking it to the next level. And that includes through housing, transportation, supporting our seniors, which I've worked over 20 years with seniors and youth, also returning citizens, and education and training for not just our youth, but also our adults, our families, our parents who are stuck in jobs that they want to move on from. And so what I'm here to do is to offer you an option for your future, because it's not about the next 2 years. It's not about the next 4 years. It's about the next 20 to 30 years. And so with your help, I hope tonight you will see a difference in me and the incumbent. First and foremost, I want you to know I'm the only LGBTQ candidate in this race representing the community, and I understand what diversity means, coming from a family that is from the South and grew up around all Caribbean, white, Asian, everyone. So I understand that this isn't about a color. This is about our community wealth and our heritage in Mattapan and Greater Mattapan, which includes parts of Dorchester and Hyde Park. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Matthew, if you would do the first question, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you both for being here today. I'm just realizing, Fatima, should I flip a coin again for who's, or no, we'll have candidate Hardaway answer this one first, correct?
Sure, that's fine.
Great. Okay, so first question, you guys both touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to give you some room to expand on this. Obviously, we here are part of a neighborhood council that works in a neighborhood that has many civic associations, and I've heard I think it's very true. I've heard people say it, and I think it's true that that's where a lot of the real work gets done, of community organizing and making sure everything works the way it's supposed to. So my long-winded question, I want you to talk about, if you can, some of your history with community groups in our neighborhood, and what that means to you. So candidate Hardaway can kick that off.
Thank you so much. Well, it means a lot to me because myself, I am a business owner with my family, and I was a founding member of the Morton Street Board of Commerce, which worked with community groups, civic groups that were on West Selden, that were on Norfolk, that were all a part of Mattapan. Back in 2005, 2007, we got the neighborhood named the Morton Street Board of Commerce and brought services that the neighborhood wanted, that we worked together and collaborated on and found our common ground. So working with civic groups is very important. What you have to know is that we're all going to be different, and that we all have to listen to one another, which is not something that happens very often. And there's going to be disagreement. But after that, what we come to is a consensus about why we're here. And we have to do that together. So I'm very much about community. I also am the board president for the Roxbury Main Streets and have overseen the development of downtown Roxbury, including Nubian Square, and worked with many different groups across Roxbury, and including now as the interim executive director for Bowdoin Geneva Main Streets. I have helped organize and partner with the city and Cape Verdean Association for the Bowdoin Geneva Task Force on Mental Health and Safety. So that's who I am.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Holmes.
So thank you, Matthew. I'm going to simply say to you something that is the truth, and that is over the past 12 years, I have attended more than 2,500 community meetings, 2,500 of them. I have known Mr. Hardaway that entire time, and I have not seen him in one, not one. And so when you think about even when he says that we've been thinking about just the neighborhood around Morden Village since 2005 and 2007, which he mentioned, think about all the other things that needed to get done in Morden Village. We needed to bring down the Morden Street Bridge. We needed to knock down the police station. We needed to change Morden and Gallivan, an intersection that for most of our entire lives has been just dangerous. We were literally putting our lives in danger. You guys were in those meetings with me, Fatima, Helena, Matthew. We were in those meetings together. And you know how much Barbara and how passionate Barbara was because she lost her son in those meetings. And so when you think about just all of the places and all the things, even as we now put together the Morden Village. So Morden Village, the building, the 40 units that are coming in, the amount of work and the amount of meetings that we had to have between ROC and CICD and others to get that to the point where we all could be agreeable. And so when it comes to, hey, what does this look like? You will continue to see me in the neighborhood. It is not just something that you're going to do now because you're running. It can't be, hey, I'm going to now join the meetings now that I'm running. The question still comes, what did you do before you were running for office?
I would like to comment, please.
I think we're just doing answers only, no rebuttals here. Do I have that right, Fatima?
That's correct.
Okay.
You
So we'll
can
go
do so when you wrap up. Thank you. Matthew, I think you had a second
You
question.
want me to go again? Okay, cool. Yeah, so second question, and this one will go to candidate Holmes first, and you actually touched on this a little bit in your last response there, but can you please give me a little bit more information about what your strategy is for dealing with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, this wonderful organization that, you know, we have traditionally struggled to get responses from, to get, you know, put a face to these projects that happen in our district, much more so than when we're dealing with the city. What are you going to do if you're elected to make MassDOT answerable to your constituents? Start with Mr. Holmes.
So as you know, Matthew, MassDOT, I really put in both categories. I put them in Mass Highway and I put them in the MBTA. And so some of the things that I'm doing with the MBTA is exactly what we're doing around the Mattapan Trolley. As you know, we're about to deliver a $200 million project along the Mattapan Trolley. And we had those meetings pre-COVID where we started having conversations about what that trolley would look like and what we would pick. And what I said to MassDOT is to be transparent, make sure you don't take down all of the webpage for all the other meetings. So even today, if you go and you Google Mattapan transformation, you can see the meetings we had in 2018 and 2019. You can see the commitments that we made then. And even last week when I was having just a group meeting with them in advance of our September meeting, I said to them, we want to make sure we continue to build the trust. When it comes to Mass Highway, as happens frequently, constituents text me and I immediately send those texts either to the general manager or to the administrator. We will continue to get your voices directly to the highest level. I've seen folks, or I've had folks just email me and say, hey, can you please make sure you pave these, come do some snow removal. I would call over and say, come remove this spot. And so transparency is what's most important, Matthew. We will continue on all of these projects. I will continue to force them to show what have we been doing, keep the meetings up, keep the commitments up because of the fact that that's what we have to build in our neighborhood. Trust if we want to continue to have folks think they should join on the MBTA or on the highways.
Great, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Hardaway.
So first and foremost, I just want to address the 2,500 meetings. I understand that the incumbent has said he's been to 2,500 meetings, but in 2,500 meetings, why does Blue Hill Ave still look the same? Why does Codman Square still look the same? There are many parts of our community that seem like he's been to these meetings, but has not listened. So one of the things I want to point out about transportation is that we need transportation that's going to fit our economy for the future, not for right now. And that does not include tearing down Blue Hill Avenue and Warren Street to put the buses the way they are, because it's going to destroy our local economies and take away parking, and the incumbent is for it. I am not currently for redesigning Blue Hill Ave with the buses the way that it is. What we need is to plan out our future for the economy and make that transportation meet us. Another thing I want to note is the incumbent is saying that he is has planned all this helpful transportation when in fact he led the way for the state to take away land from residents and homeowners to make the Mattapan station for the Fairmont line. So there are a lot of things that I want you to know. Transportation is very important to me, and we'll lead this with us in mind, and to make sure that the jobs that come with building that transportation include us, and that our design is going to help bring the dollars to our community and not just downtown.
Excellent. Thank you. Fatima?
Let me ask, chat room moderator, are there any questions in the chat currently?
Chat at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll start off with other questions then. Thank you both for your answers to the previous questions. This one has to do around public school funding. Mattapan is one of the neighborhoods in the city of Boston that does not have a public high school. And one of the things that we across the board in Boston Public Schools is that there is funding that has been taken away from Boston Public Schools when it is gone and given to charter schools. And there is a long time debate going on whether or not there can be limits on it. What going forward, what recommendations would either of you do in order to make sure that the state is actually funding equitably both charter schools as well as Boston Public Schools? Matthew, who started first last?
Last was Mr. Holmes responded first, so this one will be Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you. If Kevin Hardaway, if you could please start.
Thank you.
Melinda, if you could start the timer. Thank you.
This is really important to me. I'm a graduate of Boston Public Schools. I went to Boston Latin School and moved on to Suffolk University. So I understand the value of education. First thing we have to note is that it's a hostile environment, not just for the students, but for the teachers and for the administrators. We're failing everyone. One of the things around funding that we really have to get back to is Title VI of the 1968 Civil Rights Act, right? So what we have to note is that we need schools that aren't going to be torn down in our neighborhood, and we need schools that are going to be built up to fit us as a community of color. And what we see is the design of charter schools and building so many charter schools, but they're leaving our high schools behind, they're leaving our elementaries behind and tearing them down or closing them. What we need to do is have more oversight and around policy and the funding. And so we have to redevelop that. That's only going to happen when we talk to people, when we look at the ARPA money. This is the first time that we've had so much money pumped into our system in more than 60 years. And so what we have to do is review it, look at it. I don't have all the answers, but I know that there are plenty of people that have been advocating for a better school system, better funding, and that's who we have to target, that demographic, bring them to the table, and then do it right this time.
Thank you. Rep. Holmes, please.
Sure. So I thank you for the way you asked the question, because of the fact that it does not tear one community against the next. It does not tear public versus private versus parochial versus MECO. It doesn't pull us apart, because of the fact that when I think about schools, I think about the students on my streets and the parents on my streets, and we're making decisions. Some families, they may have a child in that school, in their home, that is a MECO student. Then they may have another child they choose to believe they should go into public school. And the next one, they might think that they should go into charter. And so the way you frame the question is important. And the way we've been answering this question is to fully fund charter school reimbursement, which we've been doing in the state legislature, which is some of the things that we've done with the money that we've had. But we've also looked to fully fund the Student Opportunity Act. We did a study 10 years ago. Senator Chang Diaz helped to chair that study that truly showed that although we in Massachusetts might be very comfortable saying we are the #1 state in education across this country, and we are, but it doesn't matter when our bottom 10% of our schools are underperforming. And so now what we're doing is with the Student Opportunity Act funding, we are making sure and ensuring that the bottom schools get the funding that they need. We're thinking more equitably and not thinking about equality. And that's what we do at the state level. We will continue to fund it. And thank you for the question.
Thank you. Chat room moderator, are there any questions in the chat?
We do. We actually have a few questions in the chat. The first question is directed to Rep. Holmes from Stephanie Theodore. She asks, I would like to know what Mr. Holmes has done for the Haitian community in the last 12 years.
Do I have a minute and a half?
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Well, I think where we can begin with the Haitian community is in last year's budget, we were going through COVID, unfortunately, and we needed to have a lot of attention put around the Haitian community. And what we were able to get in the budget was $8 million to IFC. So when you think about what Pastor Kiki and even Diane and the Black COVID Coalition and others have been doing in Mattapan Square over the last year, that is a lot of that has been funded by work that we've done in the state legislature. And when you think about just the Haitian community, one of the things that I've been really fortunate to do when I was chair of the Black and Latino caucus was that when I came in, I said, hey, Gov, he was first elected, hey, Charlie, why don't we make sure that we meet every quarter as a caucus? And the governor agreed to that. And so when we've had the unfortunate incidents of what to do about the hurricane, what to do about the earthquakes for Haiti, we've been providing not only just the Haitian community here in Boston, but also the Haitian community in Haiti. Finally, Pastor Kiki was mentioning this the other day when he came to the State House and said, we need to have undocumented licenses. It was the #1 priority of this caucus. It was the #1 priority that I had in the last session. And we've been able to now get that across the finish line, that we have undocumented folks in this Commonwealth able to get their license.
Thank you. Excuse me, chat room moderator, are there questions in the chat that are to both candidates?
We do.
Could you go to those first, please?
Will do.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Sheila Crean. What experience do you both have managing large budgets and achieving milestones?
Am I to go first? I think I just went, but would you like me to go first,
Candidate
Matt, or no?
No, Candidate Hardaway, please. Thank you for asking. If you could unmute, I just asked you.
Thanks for the question. I'm an experienced leader and manager. While I was at Central Boston Elder Services, I was the director for the Suffolk County Caregiver Alliance and managed over $1 million budgets. And we were successful in delivering services to thousands of people daily. And that included the elders and the caregivers themselves of their families. As a business owner, I am managing budgets all the time to keep them frugal, but also to help operate our family business. And so it's important that we note around funding and the execution of that funding is that we are really managing why it's there and what we're using it for. And so as a state representative, my oversight over the budget, as well as funding that goes to different agencies, to make sure that they're audited and that we're coming back to the community and letting them know how their dollars are spent. So when it comes to managing, I'm there, I understand budgets. I've been doing it for a very long time. And even in my role as the interim executive director for Bowdoin Geneva Main Streets, money is all around me. So yes, I have experience.
Thank you. Rep. Holmes? If you could unmute, please.
I think the question was, what experience do we have managing large budgets? And $1 million at the state level is not a large budget. I have, over the past 12 years, been able to work with the leadership and be appointed to two very important committees. One is the Ways and Means Committee, where literally all $52 billion that we manage from a annual expense budget is coming through there. And then I've been on the bonding committee, which is the way we bond all of the Commonwealth, from everything from our roads to our streets to anything that are happening here in the Commonwealth. And so that is what I've done at the state level. But I've been fortunate to actually be a true business owner. Mr. Hardaway loves to talk about having a business, but when I look at his statement of financial interest, they ask, well, how much money are you deriving from your business? And then the answer is zero, not a single dollar. And when I see a business not deriving any money, I don't call it a business. I call that a hobby, not a business. And so I want to just go back to the other comment that Ms. Brown is on the phone. When you say to me that we took land from Woodhaven to build that station, there is not a single person that we've taken land from. You can ask the folks from Woodhaven, did we take land? Were there some disagreements that during that time? Absolutely. But we have literally put $50 million on that corner between the new Cody Village and the new train station. And that is economic development. That is what we're trying to bring to this neighborhood.
Thank you. Chat room moderator, is there a question? I believe there are individual questions. The last individual question was pointed to Rep. Holmes. Is there an individual question that is directed to Kenneth Hardaway?
Yes, we have a question from Terrence Williams. It reads, Mr. Hardaway, you said care about the community. Can you say how many community meetings you have attended and how you plan on doing what you say with you don't have the governor or mayor with you?
Certainly. So again, the comment has been made about attending meetings. I attend meetings all over the city, and I plan to replicate what I do on a daily basis. I help people on the street. I help people in their homes. I help their businesses where they're at. And being in a meeting doesn't mean that you're getting the job done. I've helped gang members get out of gangs. I've helped house people. I've helped help clothe them, feed them. I've helped them get jobs. I am where the people are at. And being in a meeting is very important because you have to connect to the community. But oftentimes what we find is that we get caught up in meetings and aren't as effective as we possibly can be. How I've been effective, I've participated and been the co-founder of the Nubian Square response team, where we've worked with police officers, with businesses, with residents, and being effective on the streets every day with issues from Mass Ave, with issues from homelessness. And so I do that. I went and counted the homeless. We fed the homeless. So I will continue to do that in this district that I've lived in my whole life. What I want you to know is the four walls of a meeting house, it needs to extend beyond there. And we can't get caught up in being in one place. We need to be in the hearts and the homes of the people that we serve. And that's why we're getting elected. So yes, the incumbent has been to 2,500 meetings, but again, why does Blue Hill Ave still look like the same it does since the riot?
Thank you. Chat room moderator, could you please, the next questions?
Sure.
You don't have
next
to read
question.
you don't have to say who it's from, but the next questions, are they questions, general questions, or are they pointed to specific candidates?
Yes, the next two questions are general questions for both
Okay.
candidates.
All right, thank you.
The next question is, my questions are, do you support the changes to the Norfolk Street Bridge? What steps have you taken, are you willing to take to improve our public safety?
I think this question is mine first, correct?
I believe so.
So
Thank you.
is mine first or his?
It is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to whoever asked the question. As you know, we were I
think we may have
I think he took himself off by accident.
lost
We lose them?
the candidate. Oh, he's back. Here we go.
Okay. Do you see the screen?
100% me. Apologize. I got a phone call when I was trying to reject the phone call and accidentally hit it. So I guess I'll just answer yes. Rep. Suffolk and I were able to get $50,000 as the first wave. And sorry about that. I apologize.
Thank you very much. Kenneth Hardaway.
Yeah, so the Norfolk Bridge is very important. Safety is always important when it comes to our neighborhoods, and we need to do better. We can do better. And I've seen working with coalitions of people, with the police, with the state, and making sure that safety is tantamount. So what I did see in learning about the Norfolk Bridge is some of the things that can be done to make the bridge more well lit, make it more aesthetically pleasing, make it so that people who are also disabled can use it with function, and that it's safe to go through at night. So I am all for making sure that we're looking at every way that we can beautify our neighborhood, make it safer, and make it available and inclusive to everyone, whether they are capable or are living with a disability. So, I mean, in other places, I've seen bridges just like it, and they build flowers around it. Just in Fenway, there's different designs that we can do to incorporate what we want to see in our neighborhood. And so we don't have to take no for an answer. What we have to do is compromise.
Thank you, Karen Hardaway. Matthew, can I ask you a question? As the Rep Holmes didn't get, he went off camera. Do you want to let him finish that question, or because we only got part of it? As the question was asked.
I thought he was respectfully trying to say that his time was used off camera. So maybe we should move on to the.
That's up to you. I'm only asking as a benefit to the person who asked the question.
Okay. If you don't mind, if I took 30 seconds, Selena, is that okay? Okay. So I'm going to combine the challenge around Norfolk Bridge with what we're also doing at the Jones Bridge, where we're removing it. And so what I've said to Yasha, Chief of Streets, is that when we take down the Jones Ave Bridge, we were anticipating that bridge is going to probably cost between $10 and $15 million. My ask of the city is, don't just now take that bridge down and not rebuild it. Take the funds that we were going to use if we're going to rebuild that bridge, and help us at Norfolk, help us all around that neighborhood, just like they've been asking for months and years. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe that now satisfies the person who asked the question, their response. The next question, moderator, please.
The next question. I lived in Mattapan all my life, and I have seen its transition over the years, especially when there was something in Mattapan for everyone. How aggressive or proactive will you be to evolve the Mattapan community? It should not look nor feel like some third world country.
Am I first?
Yes, please.
All right.
Okay.
I agree. My statement has been and continues to be at all times, I'm not picky, I just want the best. And I don't think we look like a third world country. I believe when I think about what was mentioned before about getting the train station at on Cummings Highway, I think about the fact that I grew up on Rockdale. I grew up knowing that that was a train not intended for us. I grew up knowing I had to take the 21 or the 31 or take the trolley up to Ashmont. And to now be able to say, yes, this is a train that's available to us. That's, to me, is a trip that has now takes someone who lives in our community an hour down to 20 minutes. And those are the things that really are why I think people are so attracted to Mattapan and getting more attracted. The challenge still becomes, I had a next door neighbor who moved in who was white, and someone decided they were going to start now having their dog literally use the restroom in their yard. And so our challenge still becomes that we can't have a community that says, hey, we want to have everyone in it, and then we're going to be negative to folks because of skin color. And so as we balance making our community better, we have to also balance the fact that there are other folks who are going to be moving in, having a little bit more diversity. Because remember, this is a district that is 92% of color. And so it's not a radical change to go to 90% of color. And so I'm hoping all of these improvements make us definitely feel like not like a third world country.
Thank you. Mr. Hardaway?
So thank you to the person asking the question. I lived in Mattapan, grew up, Morton Street, Hazleton, so I know the different sides of our community and our district. The first thing is about the third world country. we should not, nothing should look like a third world country. And that's a moniker for something that doesn't mean what it means. What we need to do is have a community that looks like the country our ancestors built, and now it's for us. And that we're not here trying to build, not get what we deserve. And that includes having clean streets. That includes having safer streets. That includes making it okay for LGBTQ people to live in Mattapan and across District 6. So we have to start looking at the future. And that means, how do we design our district, including Mattapan, which means a good place to live or to sit. So it's always been at the center of this town to be a good place to live. So we have to actually target what we want to see, like they did in Dedham. We're Legacy Place. You don't see the gentrification happening in that town because they built their design to include the people who live there. And they built their design to recruit businesses that will employ the people there. That's how you start to get to a place where we can have something that doesn't look like a quote unquote third world country, but looks like a country that's leading, looks like a town that is the center place of our district.
Thank you.
I don't know if you saw the comments there. Sounds like Miss Theodore is saying maybe she's Haitian, and maybe the third world country is there are lots of Haitians in Mattapan Square, and I didn't get those questions that she was asking inside the chat. That the Haitians are making it look like a third world country. I'm not sure what she's asking.
Excuse me, moderator, can you please ask the question again?
No, there's some
Sure.
comments, there's some chat in the chat. That's what I didn't understand.
But it is unclear if the question is for the person.
No, it's
who
not.
asked the question.
It was my question. It's Kenya. Everybody on here
Oh,
knows
okay,
me. My
thanks,
question
Kenya.
wasn't
All right.
specific. It wasn't specific to Haiti. Russell Holmes, I mean, you know, I've spoken a lot about Mattapan and Mattapan Square, and my thoughts about its current conditions and how it has lacked the resources and the growth compared to other neighborhoods in this city. And so I wanted to really hear from the both of you guys, how proactive and aggressive will you be in evolving the Mattapan corridor? Really is where my thought is, because Mattapan Square and anything from River Street to Morton Street should not look the way it does.
Okay, so
point,
can we
in
address
2022.
that question?
Comment,
Matt, or
30
no?
seconds.
Hold on, please. I think Kenneth Hardaway, I think you answered already. Is that correct?
Well, she kind of was a little bit more specific, and I'd like the opportunity at some point for both of us to be able to answer what she just said.
Okay.
Just asked.
Okay. Well, what we'll do then is we'll start with Rep. Holmes, and then we'll bounce back to you if that's okay.
Thank you.
Is that
Karen.
agreeable? You're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya, for the question. You and I have been in these conversations often, and that's why I'm challenged. So when we build like what we're building at Wellington Hill, when we build like what we're building at Cody Ford, when we build like what we're building at the Loop, right? All of these and what we're potentially about to build in Mattapan Square at Auto Service and Tire, I get concerned just because as we start to bring these transitions in, what I keep hearing, unfortunately, is some people feel like, hey, as long as there's a hood, there'll be a place for me. They're feeling like all of these changes are not for us. And I'm saying they are for us. And just trying to balance that, Kenya, is what I meant.
Thank you. Mr. Hardaway?
So I thank you for the specifics around it. And I just want to say that, you know, it's been over 10 years that the incumbent has been in office. And how many jobs have come to our district, not the city? We need to start thinking about how to employ our people, because our people hire our people. And so with that, you know, Mattapan Square was in a bid along with Morton Street Board of Commerce for the last designation of a main street in the city. And it wasn't given to us, it was given to Mattapan Square. And so I wonder why, with 12 years of experience and 12 years in office, why we haven't had the funding or the support or the initiative to help reduce storefronts, to help bring funding from, even in this Black Lives Matter movement and this new civil rights movement, why we are still waiting for funding to help these businesses. Many of our local businesses have not received any funding from the state through the PPP, through the $75 million that was given to businesses. My business didn't get any of that money. So we have to have someone who is aggressive, who understands that everything needs to build into our local neighborhood. And I am that person. I'm a business owner. I have been there helping businesses apply and not get anything, helping them struggle and seeing them cry. I know what it is. And so we have to do that together, not just one person. It's not a Superman role. This is about accountability on both sides, because we go into the State House and we are going to work together. And that's all I can say about that. But I'm with you, Ms. Kenya. I understand, and we need to move forward.
Hey, Helena, you gave me 30 seconds, but what are you speaking? A minute and 30 seconds? Can I make up for the time he just used?
Helena, how much did you come up? Helena? How much time did you give for comments?
I took the 30 seconds. I thought you had said 30 seconds, not a minute and 30.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties over here.
No problem.
Okay. Could you place a minute then, Helena, on the timer? Or is there technical difficulties with the timer right now?
I can be respectful. If you do a minute and 30, I can know how to stop it at 30 seconds. No problem.
I'm all set. Thank you.
How much time are you giving him?
1 minute or 30 seconds, which is
One. I'll take whatever you. Why don't we just take the 30 seconds?
Okay,
all right.
30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try my best to be brief.
And I'll stop you at 30.
Yeah, Mr. Hardaway keeps making it sound like it is a one-man band. We focus on community meetings because it is us, all of us, working together to build our communities. And so when you relegate and say, hey, nothing's happened, just know I'm with you guys. The stop signs we put in, the traffic lights we put in. I see Lisa and Rick on the phone. Like, the traffic light that we put in front of Burger King on American Legion Highway means a lot. That may not be some major, large thing to everyone, but it meant a lot to you. And those are the things that I'm continuing to focus on, the things that are important to you, and not some aggregate large plan that I'm coming to save this community. Thanks. Thank you, Carla. Of course, all the bus stops on key bus routes, all of those things are important. You fought for those things, and I'm gonna continue to fight for them with you.
Thank you, Alphonse. Chat room moderator, could you please tell me if there are next questions?
Yes, there is a question. It
Okay.
reads, I would like to know the candidate's position on protecting the environment and the limited green spaces we have in the community. What will be done to ensure developers are held accountable for developing responsibly and including the community in the process?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hardaway, if you would begin, please.
Yes, the question is a great one. The environment is one of the most important pieces to any advancement, any of our plans for the future, and for the health and wellness of our community. We have very high asthma rates. We have very high diabetes, hypertension, all of that. And the environment plays a role into our access to clean air, to having places where we can de-stress in our neighborhoods and making them safe and clean. I am for the environment 100%. I understand that cars are not going anywhere. They're just going to become electric. And that's, the federal government has funded that and put billions of dollars in to help make that happen. So what we have to do is be committed to working to put more trees in our neighborhoods, not take them down, because more people die from heat exposure than they do from any other issue with the environment in our country. And so I was the one who at 14 years old was pulling out carriages and needles and all of that from the river of the Neponset River and down there at the playground on River Street. That is my life. And I work every day to make sure that people don't litter, that we have a response to our future and making sure that it includes not just what the white people have, but what we know we need to have in this community to make it a beautiful place to continue to live. So I'm for the environment.
So when we have been going through both the economic development bills, when we've been going through the bills regarding what to do about our budget, we've been putting in language that have really been stringent around environmental justice, to say that when we, give me a second, make sure I don't send that again to make sure I don't send that phone call and take over. We've been saying we need to focus on environmental justice. And so when we're going to build, we have put in language that now has it so that if you're going to build in a community, you must also respect that community. And so the challenges become because when you have just, let's name them, Crane's Ledge, when you have the athletic field that's coming in over by Harvard Commons, when you have the development happening on the state hospital site, those are the things that we have to balance between development and community benefits. And so what has been a challenge in these conversations has been, how do we make sure we plant the trees or keep the trees and measure the trees, which is what we've been doing before we go into development. I will still be a strong proponent of that, but still on the Crane's Ledge question in particular, I still, even when I met with the mayor 2 weeks ago, I said to her, what we're trying to balance is, hey, do you want to take all 24 acres and make them a park? Or do you want to simply ask, hey, is there a balance between development and a park that can be done? And I'm hoping we can find a balance, because I do not believe we should go by eminent domain and take the property of the largest Black church in all of New England.
Thank you.
And Helena, I'm not seeing a clock anymore, so I'm.
Yes, I don't either see the clock, Helena. You're on mute.
Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties working through them as quickly as possible.
Kathy, if she could assist her, if possible. Thank you. I'm sorry, who answered the last question? Russell, is that correct, Mr. Holmes?
I think so.
Okay, and
I think it's.
Mr. Hardaway?
I think Harith asked. I think he answered it first. I thought. I'm up.
I did. I think I answered first.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. All right. Chat room moderator, do you have another question?
Yes, so are we asking questions specific to candidates, or are we asking general questions right now?
Right now, how many general questions do we have?
So just so I won't miss anyone, I apologize if I did.
Hold on. Number one, there's only one chair in this meeting. Number one, and that's myself. Number two, the questions, moderator, please do not ask any more direct questions directed to each candidate. Only ask questions that are general to both, as we had gone and began the meeting stated. All right.
Will do.
All right. I hope that
the next question.
I hope that people remember that just as you're asking questions here, I hope that you also are casting your ballots either through the mail or in person when those in the election general election begins. Thank you. If you proceed, moderator.
The next question is, how do you envision increasing economic development and inclusion in Mattapan?
So one of the things, I'll give an example of that I think is important around economic development. The Black and Latino Caucus, as I said, we meet with the governor quarterly. And in one of the meetings, Charlie comes and he's like proud about the GE project, and then he's proud about just some of the things we've done around increasing the language for more diversity in suppliers and the like. But then what I said to him is like, hey, Gov, you have built hundreds of millions of dollars worth of affordable housing since you've been the governor, but all of that has been rental. We need to start it to get to this real crux of what the problem is about how you see the difference between $247,500 for white wealth in this city and $8. You get there primarily through the equity in your home. And so what we ended up doing was coming up, he called in Crystal, who's now at Mass Housing, and said, hey, Crystal, she was then on the secretary. He says to Crystal, why aren't we building ownership? And she looks over and she says, God, basically because you haven't directed us. And so the unfortunate thing happened with GE, where we lost the GE contract, and then we had this $85 million. And then we, that is the Black and Latino Caucus, the governor, and all of his team, created what we now call Commonwealth Builders. And with the Commonwealth Builders program, you can now see, as we build across this state, up to $5 million on each project. That's how we can continue to get wealth into our neighborhoods. Apologize. I think that may have been my buzz.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Hardaway?
Well, what we're actually talking about is poverty. And many of us have seen poverty around us, if not lived in it, their whole lives. And so what we have to do is start challenging the system around that poverty. And the first thing is around housing. And that means that, yes, we need to build more housing and more home ownership, but it means that we need to have access to building it. Our developers, our engineers, all the people that are from this neighborhood where we've sent our kids to get these degrees, and they should be able to come back and get jobs in their fields. And so the other thing is making sure people have a place to live includes investigating why people have been on the Metro housing list, the Boston housing list, been thrown off, told they have to redo it and apply for 5, 10, 15, 20 years while they watch folks get housing ahead of them. We have to really look at that housing piece. Second, we're gonna have jobs. How many jobs have been created in this district in the past 12 years? Not many. Most of it's downtown. We need to build up the economy by training our adults, not just summer jobs. We need intentional training and funding around trades and allowing people to move up, have upward mobility, which was given to our people across the country in the 70s and the 80s. If it worked 50 years ago, why aren't we doing the same thing now? It doesn't need to be our destination. We have a future that is greater than what people are choosing for us, and we need to do that.
Thank you. Is the next general question?
We do. The next general question is, how do you envision increasing economic development and inclusion in Mattapan? I believe I read that. I'm sorry, it's hard keeping up with the questions. Some of them are coming in double.
Doing a great job.
So same question, same person, different question. For both candidates, what was your major personnel and professional accomplishments?
I think he's
Started
first.
last.
I started last, so I'm thinking it's
Okay.
Mr. Hardaway.
Mr. Hardaway, please. Thank you.
So one of my greatest accomplishments started when I was 19. I founded the Greater Boston STEP Association, which was an organization that helped teach STEP. And we reached across the Commonwealth. And at 19, I was able to help teach our cultural, who we are as a culture and a people, to teach the students leadership. And that was by the hundreds. We helped students stay out of gangs. We helped students improve their school learning and their grades and their love of themselves. Many of those students to this day are in leadership positions around the state and around the world. So I consider that one of my biggest accomplishments. I also was the person who founded the Centenarian Society of Boston at Central Boston Elder Services, which honored our 100-year-old elders and took them to the State House for them to be seen and let them speak and for us to learn from who came before us, because elders aren't just old people, they are experienced leaders. And to be able to sit with someone who had lunch with Stalin, to sit with a woman whose father was on the Titanic, it matters. And that's the connection we need to start to have. So by helping to build up people and connect lives, that's a really big, a big success story for me because I love my people.
So I'd like to begin by how you help the most amount of people, and not something for me personally being successful. And how do I help the most amount of people? I think of the Casey overpass near Forest Hills. The thought that we were going to just rebuild a bridge and went through a process that now hundreds of thousands of people use and is much more convenient. I think of what we've done even at that train station that has been mentioned before, about how we now get all of these folks in town so much more quickly. I think of the post reform. I mentioned before, when I came into office, our incarceration rates, if you look at the charts, were going just through the roof. And so we have been able to, through criminal justice reform, through peace officer standard reforms, turn that curve. So literally, we used to have, when I came in office, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 11,700 people incarcerated in state prison. We're down now just around 6,000. And when you talk about all of the returning citizens whose lives have changed, who I go and I teach financial literacy to them on every Tuesday morning, which is where I was this morning, where I would normally be in the afternoon at the jail, changes people's lives. I love it when someone walk up to me and does it and say, "You changed my life with the things you've done and what you taught me in prison, because you were an encouragement." And so those things, and how do we help people, is really, to me, the answer to that question, not so much how did I personally gain, because
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for, do we have time for one more question? For both candidates, and then we're gonna wrap up and allow each candidate to have a last statement. The last question, moderator, do you mind if I read the question?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. With rising sea levels and increasingly alarming predictions around flooding and storms due to climate change, what plans do you have to ensure that the Mattapan community has safe and clear evacuation routes, and options when Boston experiences severe storms and flooding in the coming years?
So we are fortunate in Mattapan that we actually are one of the farther communities from flooding, but I can tell you we've just put in the latest round of funding, something around culverts. I know Harvard Commons and others have heard me talk about this. The culverts along American Legion Highway and the culverts along Morton Street that we get all flooding. We have to now start to look at all of the trash and debris that is piled up in these culverts, because of the fact that it then starts to flood, and that's where we're seeing some of the flooding that is absolutely happening. And so between culverts, stormwater drains, making sure that we do all the solar panels. Like I remember when we talk about just neighborhood meetings again. You think about what's happening just in Codman Square, what we've done at the Second Church for putting solar panels on the roof, what we're looking at doing for solar panels at Harambe Park, and what we're looking at doing at Franklin Field. In every area around the district, we're saying we have to take, whether it be electric cars, we have to make sure we get the funding in. And so one of the things I'm going to commit to saying is the environmental development bill had an awful lot of that funding in it that we did not get passed because of the gov's move around the $2.5 billion. We need to come back and make sure we deliver that as well this year.
Thank you. Mr. Hardaway?
So first and foremost, I'm going to listen to the experts, because that's what people aren't doing. We need to bring the scientists in so that we can have a plan of action for Mattapan that sits at a riverbed. So we need to make sure that we're listening to those experts who are going to lead us in the best ways to protect Mattapan and the higher parts of our community. I challenge the incumbent about his equity over the years and working on the environment, because it's been 12 years. And if you're just coming to this point that we need to protect it and we need to bring in all of these new age solar panels, why wasn't it done when you first got in? We've been dealing with environmental issues, and usually in Black communities and communities of color, they have the highest issues with environmental justice. So it should be something that we're fighting for and that we're protecting. We are going to make the green economy something that's worth investing in our district, and as well as biosciences. So it's important that we are doing everything that we can to protect the environment, protect us, and protect this good place to live. So When it comes to the environment, I am there. I am all for it, whether it's Crane Ledge and protecting that wildlife resource that matters, because people come to live not just because there's jobs, but it's a good place where they can breathe and that they can invest their families and their futures in. So, yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to wrap up now. And if each could keep their last statements to a minute each, or yeah, to a minute each, that'd be much appreciated.
1 minute, 1 minute on the clock, just confirming.
Assuming I open, so he will close first. Is that how it works or no?
Who opened first?
I did.
You did? Then we'll ask Mr. Hardaway to close first. Thank you.
Starting now?
Starting now. Thank you.
All right. So residents of Mattapan, Greater Mattapan, I know what it's like to live in that area and to be from that area and to be in your heart, because all of District 6 is in my heart. And what I want to promise you is the only promise that I will make to you is that I'm going to fight and I'm going to bring up the issues, talk about the real life situations that we're dealing with, not pretend to be concerned about those that are returning citizens and not help them when they get out. We have to make sure that we are bringing in the jobs and the investment and development that's going to carry us into the future. We need education. We need transportation that's going to make us the best place in the city to live again. So I ask for your vote on September 6th for not just change, but for your future that you can invest.
Thank you.
So I thank all of you for being here as well. And you all are committed folks. And what challenges me on this conversation is we are people who are committed, going to neighborhood meetings, being very, very active, voting every single time. Mr. Hardaway is asking you to come and vote in a primary when Mr. Hardaway doesn't show up for the 2010 primary, 2012 primary, 2016 primary, 2018 primary, doesn't even vote in them, and now asking you to come out in your primary and vote for it. To me, that is just, the folks who should have these loud voices about change should at least be in the room voting. That's one. And then two, just unaware what Crane's Ledge was. Literally on this first flyer, didn't even include Mattapan, didn't include Hyde Park and JP as they were even parts of this neighborhood. Asking for your vote, still going to be committed to this neighborhood, and please vote for me on September 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. No problems. I have the gong. Thank you, Elena. Much appreciated. With that, we're going to conclude tonight's candidate forum. We're very much appreciative of Mr. Hardaway and of course Rep. Holmes for taking time out of the evening today to come and share their thoughts. This has been a more spirited conversation, I can say. Thank you all for all the great questions that you did put in the chat. Just to let you know that these questions will not be forgotten. After this meeting, if it's agreed by both candidates, we're going to compile the remaining questions and send them to you. And if you could answer them, what we'll do is the unanswered questions, post those onto the site. If you both agree, if that is, if that works for both of you.
That's fine. We can answer them and send them back to you if you want.
Yep.
The site or email them to us, and I'm glad to be there to answer the questions for everyone.
What we'll do is we'll put them inside of a Google Doc, and each of you can go and answer them in the Google Doc, and that way they'll be easily transferable. Is that okay? Also, Rep. Holmes? Did we lose him again?
I think we may have.
Oh boy, that phone. I completely sympathize about the technology at times. It can get away from all of us. Okay, with that, I do want to wait a second. I do want to allow him to.
We are over time, Fatima, as well, and I don't know, he may have had another.
Okay.
Engagement.
Okay, that's true. Thank you all for your time this evening, and if possible, we look forward to seeing everyone join us tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening is the 2nd Suffolk, And there are 4 candidates who will be available to answer our questions or before the general election. I'm sorry, the primary. If there anything else that anyone would like to say, Matthew, Elena?
Just I'm writing in the chat right now for Lisa had a question about whether the recording be made available.
Yes.
So I dropped a link to our website in the chat, and I'm sure you'll push an email out when that's ready.
Right, correct. What we'll do is that there'll be a link.
Apologize for Fatima Law. I apologize for that.
No problem. I'm glad you could join back with us. I assume that technical difficulties are ruling the day today. But what Mr. Hardaway had agreed to is that the remaining questions that are in the chat, that I would put them into a Google Doc and send out the link to both of you, and you can answer them, and then we'll post your answers onto our website, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your time and patience. Thank you, Helena, for keeping the time and keeping us on track. Thank you, candidates, both for your patience, and we look forward to the rest of your evening. Thank you, everyone else, audience, for the attendance and for your time and for your questions. Appreciate all of you.
Have a great night. Thank you so much. Remember to
Thank
vote
you.
September 6th.
Yes, please vote September 6th.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you. Yep, there we go.